introduce you and just say a few things, and then you can start. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our coffee and conversation. And this is our second one in the year. We previously had a nice event hosted by Sherry in Howick. Congratulations to her for having us and for making such a impactful event. So our theme for the year is polish until you shine, shine until you sparkle. So with everything that we're doing, we're sparkling. And with this month being Valentine's month, the month of love, we just want to speak about communication, because sometimes what makes people not to be in the same line or to agree on something is because they're not communicating properly. So we've got our specialist for today, our very own Shanta Maharaj is going to present to us. But before she presents, I'd just like to share something. You know, in my devotion this morning, I was reading, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful, what is building others up according to their needs, that may benefit those who listen. So when we communicate, we shouldn't just do it for the sake of saying words, but we must try and be helpful to build up and provide needs of others, which is to encourage them. And number three, to be beneficial, like to give nutrition on our communication, because words have the power to build up or tear down a person. So let us choose wholesome talk. And as I close, I'd like to remind you or us to be intentional about speaking words that are good and helpful. And we've got our upcoming coffee and conversation with Amanda from the Dialogue SA. She's a contact that I received from Women in Business, and she's got a good profile as well. So be sure to catch us. We'll announce the date will actually be on the 9th. We'll confirm the time and get back to you on social media. And then we've got our in-person events coming up, which will be focusing on HR practitioners, coaches, and lawyers on the 11th of March at Golden Horse. The details are also to follow. I'd like to hand over to Shanta to give us her presentation today. And I know that you're gonna enjoy this one. Thank you. You can take over.
Thank you so much. Okay, so there seems right. I'm just looking and making sure that everybody is muted so that we don't have any background, because I believe you are recording this for your YouTube channel and I'm going to be using it as well. So let me just share my screen and then I will begin. Right. Good. Aha, there we go. Lovely. So I think everybody besides Hafsa has an idea who Hafsa, are you on our Women in Business WhatsApp group? Because if you are, then you have encountered my comments and things like that. So yes, I'll very quickly just give you a background. I'm 63 years old. That's the first thing I say, and I'm loving it. Born and bred Pietermaritzburg, so that's how, you know, my heart is still very much there. Worked abroad for a while and back now, but settled in Gordons Bay, Western Cape. And yes, I'm a mother, I'm a professional woman, I'm many things, but I'm also a human being. And being a human being, I've always got to communicate, and I can't just woof, woof, or meow and get my way through life. Now, before I even start this, I want to tell you my challenges in life. And I think we went through this while we were chatting. So here goes my challenges, right? I was not born with the nicest face. I have a very stern appearance. So I get mistaken. My appearance and the way I present myself is often mistaken, right? And I just go with the flow. There's really nothing I can do about it. But I realized it became an impediment when I opened my mouth. And that is due to my accent, which I've had since the day I started speaking. And it's due to my choice of words, because I've been to a mission school. I came from a very disciplined, hard family, and I was taught by Irish nuns. So for me, that was an acceptable way of speaking. But as I communicated in life, it created a lot of problems. At school, I was only good enough to represent the school when it came to speech contests and things, because I always brought back the trophy. But as far as having friends, I never really had friends. I just had a handful that were as bad as me, right? So those were the challenges that I had faced in life. Now let's look at all of us, right? Tone of voice when communicating. I learned much more engaging with second language speakers than I ever learned with native English speakers. And I'll explain to you why. When we do second language speaking or tutoring or anything of that sort, we're more cognizant of things like rhythm, tone, rephrasing, etc. Things that we don't cover in the South African curriculum. We don't cover in any curriculum for English unless you're actually doing the IGCSE and you're doing grammar or whatever it is, right? We don't cover these things. So we think that as long as we're getting the message across, right? We don't understand the use of modals, how important they are. We say things like must to people. Nobody must do anything for you. They should, but unless it's a life and death thing, like put on that ventilator, there's no need to use words like must and things like that, okay? I am not going to read from slides because that's not what I do. My slides are my backup. I'm going to speak to you, and I'm going to ask you now, if you look at that slide, where do you fit in? Confident, positive, interesting, humble, empathetic. Which ones do you think you see yourself as? Anybody, just give me your comments. Which one are you?
Empathetic.
Okay. Hafsa, which one are you? Winnie, join me.
Hi, I think I'm empathetic as well.
Okay.
Confident.
So we've got confident, right? What else? Positive as well. Now, I was waiting for someone to say confident for the simple reason confidence is sometimes mistaken for high self-esteem. And in my line of work, I very often come across people who are outwardly confident, but have a very low self-esteem. So the confidence comes through in their tone, in their rhythm, in their presentation. Their low self-esteem comes through in the words that pass through their mouths. So the wrong things come out in a very powerful way. And that causes a breakdown in communication. Okay, all sorts of communication. When you're angry in your home, when your significant other has been putting you down, what do? You yell because you feel you are in control. But when you yell, what passes the gateway of those lips? The wrong words, okay? So tone of voice is really, really very important. And if you look at the graph at the bottom, I always use this. Body language, right? Voice and tone, 38%. And only 7% is made up of your spoken word. So here's an example. Won't you please go to hell? And go to hell. There it is. Such nasty words. How did they come out so differently? Right? Now I'm going to change the words. I'm going to rephrase it. The same thing. I've said the ugly words of go to hell. But with my tone and my body language, I'm going to say, don't you think that you should actually keep away from me? It might be better for the both of us. Right? I've literally said go to hell, but I've said it in a very nice way. I've said it using my body language. I've said it using my tone. I have not given the other person cause to feel violated. Yes, as much as they've annoyed me, but I've been the person who has more control, and I've dealt with it in a much better way. All right, let's go on to the next one. For some reason, the slides are a tad bit slow, but we shall take it from there. Right. Doesn't that look familiar? Ladies, I used this for a purpose. And the reason I use this is very often we think it's only men that do this. How many of us have come across rude woman leaders? When I say rude, I mean rude, autocratic, absolutely void of dignity. Talk to me. Have you experienced this kind of thing, not just from men, but from women as well? Anyone comment? Sherry, Google, comments on this?
I have.
What was your reaction?
Sometimes we expect better from women.
We do, because we have a concept of sisterhood.
Yes.
Right? But remember, it's also culture dependent. And I always say, don't expect the goodness that you have to come out of the person that you are interacting with.
Sure.
And it might sound weird, but I say respect differences, agree to disagree, but with dignity. Ladies, we can lose everything. I say this to my, when I'm training counselors sometimes, or when I'm with younger people, you can lose everything, but not your dignity. And your dignity is in how you present yourself, not your degrees, not your money, not the car you drive, not the brand of clothes you wear, but it's how you present yourself. Think back on our gokos, our old ladies, our grannies, our tannies. Think back about them. They were courageous, strong women, but it was their dignity that commanded that respect. And that's what we need to do with communication. Okay, so be mindful. Let us not be that man in the suit. And God knows why he's wearing a bow tie to work. When I looked at it the first time, I thought he was wearing a tuxedo. And I thought, you full of ego. But all the same, his dress says a lot about him as well. Let's go on to the next slide. So we discussed that. When it comes to your tone, what do you speak to your children? Do you speak confidence into your children? When I say confidence, I mean self-esteem, right? So I'm overlapping it here. Do you speak positive self-esteem into your children, into your mentees, into your trainees, or do you speak authority? Please help me here. Please join me. What do you speak?
Normally it's authority, but you try to speak positive, but sometimes you just lose it.
Gugu, are we talking about when it's with our children or with our mentees?
With my children, sometimes I think to be trying to be protective, trying to be a parent at the same time.
Our anxiety.
Yes, you're being anxious and then you end up being authoritative every time instead of speaking confident. All
right. So when a child is very little, right, that's when you use the modals must, you have to, things like that. But when the child is able to start understanding, you breed self-esteem into a child when you say, come now, let us discuss this. Or I don't think this is fair. not while you are under my watch. It's things like that. To the extent, and I share this personally, and I said it off chat in the beginning, I have a 29-year-old, and he says he is more concerned when my tone is very calm, but my words are very much inviting him to a meeting. He said, Mom, that's when I know you are so serious, because I remember that from my childhood. When you said, come, let's sit and chat, or if there were 2 cups of tea brought to the table, and you said to me, can I see you? Then it meant I was really serious. It was not negotiable. I wanted to listen to your side of the story, but I don't like what happened. So I think as parents, it takes a lot of effort. In today's world, it takes a lot of stress. And you know what's the biggest mistake we make? We text. How often have our texts been lost in translation? We text too fast. I believe texting is good. I'm all for AI and fourth industrial revolution. I'm a digital immigrant and I'm very happy about it. But there are limits, and we need to know our limits. Even when it comes to group chats, now that we're on a group, let's talk about group chats. When we text on the chat, how do you feel, or how would you feel if we kept on getting the same bombardment all the time? How would you feel about it? Would you leave the chat, or would you put it on mute? Tell me the types of things you would do.
If it was continual bombardment, I'd definitely leave the chat. All my groups, especially on WhatsApp, are on mute, so that I can have a look at them when the time is right, and they're not interrupting my day all the time.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay, so I also put my group chats on mute, because otherwise it's going to cause me to reschedule my day, and I cannot do that. And just remember one thing, ladies, multitasking is one of the worst things you can do. And I'll tell you why from the communication point. You are not compartmentalizing your thoughts. And our industrial psychologist in the group is going to work with me on this, and she's going to agree, I'm quite sure. You cannot tell me that you can jump here, there, and everywhere, and that you are efficiently using your brain in all those tasks. No, you know, Superwoman, that gorgeous woman with a cape on, she's a fictional character. Don't try to be her, because we can't. We need to be able to say to ourselves, I am concentrating. If it's not life or death, why do you have to jump tasks? Who are you pleasing? You're causing chaos in your day. The same with your communication. It affects your communication, because you take the energy from that task and you transfer it, and then the energy here wasn't too good, and you transfer it. Can you see that vicious circle that you're creating? And by the end of the day, how are you communicating to people? With anger and frustration. You go into an evening meeting, you're just not yourself. As we say in Afrikaans, you gat vol. Because you brought it onto yourself in the day by not managing your thought process and your time. And it affects how you communicate. Might be a bit of a shocker, but that's multitasking can actually ruin you. Okay. So when you communicate, let your voice shine. Let it be warm. It's important, because somebody is listening to you. You remember Shakespeare's time? Give me your ears, lend me your ears. You know, the great Roman emperors, lend me your ears. Yes, people are lending you their ears. Use it wisely. They're not giving it to you to bombard. They're lending it to you. So please take cognizance of that, okay? The other thing, be authentic. There's no need to be so squeaky and sweet and kind, because you're not getting your message across. And always remember, ladies, you were not meant to be trodden upon. We are not pebbles. We are not paving slabs. We only that strong to give strength to others, not to be walked all over. Okay? And I think, my tone throughout this, hopefully, is giving you ideas of variation in tones as we go. I hope I'm giving you a practical experience. Okay, right. So our HR lady, I'm going to ask you to do something. Please unmute. Where are you, my dear? Right. If you've unmuted, I'm going to ask you to just give me a question that you would ask somebody, the first question in a job interview. Let me hear you. Have we got her with us? Okay, if she's not around, Sherry or Nampilo, can you give me a question? Or Google, in a job interview, what's your first question?
Can you tell us about yourself?
Beyond that now, we will be beyond the thing. You want to know a little more about the person, right? What
do you feel you can contribute to this job or this company?
That says everything to me. What will your partnership with this company do for you and for us? As soon as you use the word partnership, you've opened up one of two things. It's either that person's responsibility is going to shine through with enthusiasm, or you're going to pick up that this person is either willing or not willing to work with me. We don't work for companies. We work with them. We build them. Even if you are the janitor, the term economically might be working for, but we're working with, because take that person away. Or take all your janitors away. I used to say this at the IAT in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi, because I was at the main campus there. And there was this arrogance from certain people with regard to the janitors. And I was looked at oddly, because I would buy the janitor an odd cup of coffee if he was walking past the restaurant and I was there, or any one of them was walking past. And I said to somebody one day, I said, what happens if every one of them happens to resign? They're working with us for the betterment of the company. Right? So that's when you start using words like partnership, join with me, it makes a big difference. It also makes the person feel that they are valued. And when we speak to people, we need to speak to them, engage with them, and not be top down. Because actually none of us is perfect. Okay, so I have all those styles. And I think it's very important to incorporate that. And that comes with experience as well. You don't expect a 21-year-old, excuse me, to have all those styles. That's asking for too much. Now let's look at cultural differences. This is when we one-on-one. Certain cultures, it's rude to stand and look at somebody in the eye. You're supposed to sit and have your head down. So what do? If we don't understand the culture, we regard that as rudeness. Right? Other cultures, it's not acceptable to touch. So when we stick our hands out and they don't want to, we say, oh, how rude of them. No, how rude of you not to have tried to get some knowledge about that culture before you engage with it. Let's not look at the problems elsewhere. Let's look at it within ourselves and see what reactions we create. Communication is a reaction between two people. Now this one amuses me. Woman, what do we listen to? We listen more to tone of voice than anything else, right? And we respond in different tones. That is why men rudely say hormonal. Yes, maybe it's hormonal. I'm not a doctor, but that's who we are. Okay. So what are you, a motivator, an educator, a coach, or a colleague? Anyone? Or are you all four? Sadly, I'm all four. And it becomes difficult to go between. Sherry, which one are you? Or which which view did you fall into?
I would say a coach and educator.
Okay, Nampilo?
Motivator, coach, and colleague.
Gugu?
I think I'm the first three: motivator, educator, and coach. But the educator part of it, it's like you inform others, not because they don't know, but you always feel like you're on the other side. You have to help. You have to nature. You have to. It's like you are that mother nature. It's always there. You have to, not informing in a bad way as if you don't know, but it's like I must always be there.
Okay, and our other two ladies?
I think I'm a motivator, educator, and a coach.
Uh-huh. And is it yeah?
Yes, I am all for, and it can be challenging.
All four can be very challenging. Very, very challenging.
Especially when I'm, my apologies, especially at work, if I am a team leader or manager.
That's true. So I'm also in a predicament where all four, and it can be very challenging. Now let's look at this slide. Okay. Don't ever type at me with that tone of voice again. I'd like a comment from you, Nompilo. You are our chairperson. You must be dealing with 1,000 bits of communication. Do you ever feel that way when you read some things? Don't ever type at me with that tone of voice again.
Yes, I get that a lot. I actually put it on the chat that sometimes people are nice on the face, but they struggle to type, and you feel their tone on the message, on the email, or on the SMS. So it's a very hard one, this one. Yeah. Do we go back to them and give them feedback that actually I didn't like your tone, or do we just keep quiet and think this is the way they communicate?
Now, I liked what you said. You asked me if we should go back and do feedback and say, actually, I didn't like your tone. Now, that is not going to give you a good feedback. What you could do is rephrase it to, I'm not sure you are aware, but I found your tone a little bit upsetting. Is there something wrong? Can we rephrase this? Can we perhaps speak about it? Does that make a difference if we changed it to the way I would suggest?
Yes, I think that will actually make a difference, because maybe someone is actually not even aware that their tone is,
Exactly. So, you know, when you put the ball in their court, not I found you offensive, but don't you think, how do you feel? And then they like have that eureka moment, like, whoops, did we actually do that? Did we really come across so badly? Right? So I would say, let's be very mindful how we deal with that. And there is no need to apologize for somebody else's rudeness. That is not your rudeness. It is the problem with them and not with you. So I think, and I say this to everybody, before you apologize for somebody else's misinterpretation, negotiate that misinterpretation, and then come to a conclusion. It comes under negotiating skills. And, you know, especially when both people are not speaking the same language technically and also emotionally. So those are things we need to look at, not just the words. Where does the person come from? What's the background? What has caused this to come up? And, you know, as I said, multitasking, that person could have had a day from hell and has come out so badly to you. And the way you handle it can actually help to ease that person into accepting that they are not handling their crisis in a correct way. So it has a very positive ripple effect. Then, of course, you get the people, when you use that approach, and you say, don't you think, or wouldn't you like? And then they turn around and say, well, who do you think you are? That's when you realize, that's it. That this person, time out. I can't deal. It's best I just keep a distance. And you don't have to keep a distance rudely. I maintain cordiality with people. But you know, there are some people, and this is in my client base as well. There was a case when I was going through a lot of medical issues. And there was something that had come up with one of my clients. And the client stalked me. I said, I'm online till this, because I also tutor, you know, business people in Turkey. It's through Turkey, but we're talking senior business executives in English and communication. And I said to this person, this is my schedule for today. I'm finishing at 9:30 tonight. On the dot of 9:30, this person started bombarding me with messages. And in that, making false accusations. I was calm about it. By the next morning, I sent the person a document. I will no longer be your coach and your counselor, and I don't appreciate this. That was it. Over. As far as the allegations, I said, be my guest, do this, do that, done. There are times you have to adopt a very firm written tone when it infringes on your ethics, on your personal life, on your business, on your profession, on who you are. Of course, on your family as well, and on you. Right? So these things happen, and there are times you need to just come down like a ton of bricks. And that's the other persona you have to put on. Be it your friend, be it anybody who's in a business issue with you, or somebody who stalks you and calls you immediately after your last appointment. No, you've got to take firm decisions with regard to that. Okay, Philippa, hi. Okay, is there any question, or are there any questions you'd like to ask? Anyone? Let's have a chat. Anybody? Question time?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to say something. I think that a lot of what you've said is very, very important to take note of. And I think a lot of it aligns a lot to being emotionally intelligent, to putting the appropriate amount of emotion into what we're saying for the situation, and recognizing that where I'm coming from and where the other person is coming from will help us to keep a better tone and communicate better with each other. So I think it links very strongly with being strongly emotionally intelligent and applying the right amount of emotion and tone to the situation. So I appreciate what you said. Thanks, Shanta.
Thank you, Sherry. And adding to that, because I do emotional intelligence profiling, and the instrument I use is the Neuralink. That's Dr. Vermeulen's instrument. And what we do when we do EI, so you come in for EI, and then on that document, you also list 5 emails of people. And these are people who you know. So besides doing the profiling, the Neuralink profiling, what happens is the response from those 5 people also goes in. So it's just not you as an individual who's being profiled, but it's what others think about you, because we think we're great with our emotional intelligence. When it's single profiling, and our industrial psychologist here is going to actually support me on this. When it's just single profiling, it can be very biased. But when it involves other opinions, and this, battery of tests designed by Dr. Vermeulen, it's absolutely fantastic. Really, it is. I've never seen something like that where you look at the comments and then when you're discussing it with your client, obviously you do not know the name of the person. So the whole result comes down and you're sitting with this 30-page document and you're summarizing it for your client. And then you say, okay, fine. So you seem to come across as X for a certain percentage of time. You seem to come across as Y. You seem to come across as Z. So let's work on that. Those are the areas you need to work on. So emotional intelligence, it's amazing. Sherry, I'm so glad you brought that up. It is amazing how it impacts on you in so many ways. Absolutely amazing. Any other comments? Hafsa from the legal field?
Can I add
have-
something?
I have-
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
You can go
I have
ahead.
felt I worked in a very male-oriented world. When I went to Switzerland started working in January 2002, I don't have a soft voice, even prior to have been a smoker. And I was considered, oh, who is this human being? You know, I would tell my boss one day, like, oh, your tie looks good today. And it would be like, what does she want? You know, the
She's
face
hitting on
reaction.
me.
But I was also the first person of color, South African, in the whole of Swiss Re Insurance Company in management. I just had to walk and I would be noticed. I had to do nothing, just walk from my office to the canteen. But over the years, when more females and lawyers came from around the world, he got used to us and we were the most successful team because we were a whole big mixed masala, as I call it. But when I arrived, I was sitting alone with him for about 3 months till the team got built up. So yeah, it takes time. It's especially when one moves countries.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had this typical South African humor, but when I'm working, I'm very serious. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's very interesting. Nampila, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to add what my take homes were. I didn't know that multitasking was the worst thing one can do, but it makes sense. That's my learning for the day. And the fact that we must, when we speak to children, we must not like be authoritative and tell them what to do. We must try and discuss with them. And then the last thing is being authentic. Who are you pleasing? That question just stuck in my mind out of this talk. Like, if we're really not being authentic, then what are we doing? Why are we doing the things? Why are we saying the things that we're saying, you know? And sometimes we take communication as not an important thing, but today I've learned that how we communicate, how we say things, how we write things, it either determines whether we respect the people or we don't. So thank you so much.
It's been wonderful. And above all, respect yourself enough to command respect. Don't beg for it. Don't go groveling for it. I love the fact that as short as I am, you know, I'm basically 5'1", and I'm known as somebody, when I walk into a room, people either listen or they know my presence is felt. I'm very warm, very charming in company that I know. I'm extremely formal and very isolated in new company. I am not a people pleaser. I've never been. I'm happy with who I am, what I am. And, you know, I really don't care, because I know that within me, I'm carrying myself with dignity. I am not groveling for anybody's respect. And I communicate that not only through what comes out through my mouth, but in the way I carry myself. So communication is beyond words. It's how you as an individual values yourself and presents yourself. So ladies, I really hope I made a difference. I really hope I've inspired you. And I hope you've enjoyed this time, because I did. I really did. And I thank you.
Thank you,
We still
Ahad.
have, thank you so much. We still have a few minutes. If anyone has any other comments to what Shanta has shared, please do share
This is
what
Hafsa.
was your take home.
Oh, my apologies. I would say the multitasking is very, very important. I haven't employed anybody with a job description of multitasking. And I think we must all remember that in our private lives and in our business lives. That for me is vital. I even tell it to our children and grandchildren.
Okay, any other comments? Sherry, you do a lot of training.
Hi.
Yes.
Oh,
Winnie,
hi. Thank you so much. This session had opened up my mind and about your tone and your body language. So I just want to comment on this. I have been struggling with my firstborn, and how to say things to her. She's 5 years now. She asks questions, she talks back and all that. But in the process of the struggle, I managed to be able to talk, to communicate with her instead of commanding her, because I had noticed that when you command her, instead of listening to you, she has that fear. Yeah, she has that fear. So the outcome is not about understanding what you are saying as a parent, but the outcome is based on fear. So if I communicate with her, and whenever I communicate with her and make her understand why do I ask her to do things in a certain way, it comes, the outcome is always perfect, because she feels as if she has a say on how she must do things. Sometimes she even, she speaks to daddy on how me and mommy were talking about things, when you come back from school, why must I put my stuff in properly? Why must I do things in a certain way? So it's, it's pleasing. It's
yes.
It's so good. It feels good. So it's really a good thing to have, skills on how you communicate. And I think it works also in business wise. It works in friendship, in every way of life. Like, for an example, with my husband, 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, I always get what I want from him, because of how I talk to him, or how I ask him, or how I communicate with him when I need something from him. So thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ladies, before we end, can I just leave you with a bit of an acupressure exercise? And this, these are regarded as our emergency points in our body, right? Have you looked very often at men from the East when they sit in a meeting? They're sitting like this. The reason they're doing this, if you look very closely, it's massaging the tips, right? If you find that you're stressed, you're actually going to hurt yourself. So if you've got very long nails, it's not going to work, unfortunately. You massage these tips and you keep this hand so tightly together. You will find your tension easing. Do that instead of just responding to the person. If you find you can't do that, you see the WIB here? And this I learned when I was pregnant, because I couldn't take medication. And this, the good old Dr. Nelson taught me. You just massage till it hurts. Nobody knows you're massaging. You're calming yourself. It's having an effect on your brain. And then you deal with the situation. No matter how annoying the person is in front of you, do not respond immediately. Calm, work on your own body, and then respond. It really works.
Wow, thank you so much. Can I just read 2 comments from Philippa and Gugu? Philippa is saying, thank you, Shanta. Thank you for sharing the wisdom as always. And Gugu saying, thank you, Shanta. This was a really mind-opening. We've learned a lot. If there are no further comments, the time is 9 o'clock and it's been such a wonderful time. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining. This will be posted on the group. We'll upload it on our YouTube channel, and then you please share it with your friends so that they learn how to communicate, because it's such a simple thing, but yet it can change your life. It can change your business, it can change your family. It can make you have friends. It can make you have better relationships. So thank you so much, Shanta, once again.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Shanta.
Okay, thank you.
Namaste, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Have a productive day. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.